Before we break down some sizable injury news on the Alabama Crimson Tide, if you have friends who love Alabama football as well, then share today's video. Send it to them. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you have friends that follow you on social media that love Alabama football, then help us continue to grow by sharing today's video. All right, 3 notable injury updates from Nick Saban that we'll get into on today's show, beginning with stud linebacker Deontae Lawson. Now, as I'm sure most of us know, he suffered a sprained ankle back in Week 5 against Ole Miss, and then missed Week 5, What I'm kind of happily surprised by is that Saban revealed on the SEC coaches teleconference, so we'll just call it a press conference to make it easier, that Lawson is able to practice right now. That's kind of a big deal. When Saban called it a good ankle sprain, I thought he'd miss more than just potentially one game. No guarantee he plays against A&M, but that's a really good sign for an Alabama team set to take on a not easy to beat A&M squad. I don't think they're that great. I think you should be able to win, but you're on the road. Jimbo Fisher has actually had success against Nick Saban. Lawson would be a big boost to a defense that's played really well, and Lawson is a critical part of that team. And his 4 games played this year, 26 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 TFLs. He's pretty consistently around the football as well. I've been very impressed with his game. I think he is a fantastic, young, talented football player, like so many of the Alabama guys are. Getting him back for a pivotal SEC matchup against A&M would be a very big deal for the Crimson Tide. I would still put this more in maybe questionable at best territory. Being able to practice a little bit for Nick Saban doesn't necessarily mean he's guaranteed to play, If he can't go, again, it means more Jihad Campbell, more Tresman Marshall at inside linebacker. They've been working Jeremiah Alexander some there along that side of the line as well. So certainly is worth monitoring where things sit at that stage for Lawson, but at least a positive development, if not for A&M, moving forward. So prediction time, which are very tough because we don't get good injury info in college football, and it assumes the coach is being honest with us when he tells us that stuff because there's nothing to stop them from lying. So will Deontae Lawson play against A&M and the Colt? Y for yes, N for no. It's going to be today's pinned comment, so if the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. All right, injury news note number 2 is on offensive lineman Terrence Ferguson. Now, there was very intrigued by his playing time in that game, kind of took over for Darian Dalcourt in the second quarter. I thought playing pretty well against South Florida for the back spasmed Tyler Booker. Can I make back spasms a verb like that? I'm going to anyway. He left the game with a limp. Now Saban says he's able to practice at the current moment. The Crimson Tide are still going to be built on running the football when they're playing well and good offensive line play, and it's at least worth monitoring what's going to happen with Ferguson moving forward. Could he potentially cut into some playing time for Darian Dalcourt, or at least give them some depth options in the event of injury or garbage time, whatever. The stats this year along the offensive line, all per our friends over at Pro Football Focus. Terrence Ferguson had 95 snaps, about 200 less than what Dalcourt has had. Neither player is allowed a sack. Dalcourt has 1 hit allowed. Ferguson's only allowed 1 pressure, which is really good. I think he's actually been pretty solid in pass protection. The run blocking grades are fairly similar, a slight edge in favor of Dalcourt. But I do wonder if Ferguson can get healthy. Could he potentially carve his way into some playing time at right guard? So who should play that side, or that spot, TF for Terrence Ferguson, double D's for Darian Dalcourt. Go vote for me, where else but in the comments section. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. I think when most people think of DFS, they think mostly of the NFL, right? Prize Picks does have some college football options as well. Now, they got a couple of the Big 12 games up there right now. I'm sure they'll add more, at least closer to actual kickoff time. Here's what I'm going with this week in a little Big 12 slate. I got less than Alan Bowman, 232.5 passing yards. I don't think he's that great. K-State has a pretty solid defense, all things considered. And, they've been kind of rotating some quarterbacks. So I like the less than there. I'll go 2 more thans for Texas against Oklahoma. It's going to be a shootout. They're going to throw it a bunch. Give me more than 2.5 passing, rushing, or receiving touchdowns for Quinn Ewers. And then give me more than A.D. Mitchell, 66.5 yards there. You guys can take some picks as well with Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link and the code will be in the comment section and the description. But again, folks, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The last bit of injury news, which I don't know if we knew there was an injury necessarily. Been plenty of speculation. Jermaine Burton was a little bit nicked up entering the game against Mississippi State. He's been injured, and that's why he played very little, only a handful of snaps against the Bulldogs. Nick Saban offering this information, quote, "He's been a little bit banged up. We were going to try to spot him in the game and get him through the game if we could. Hopefully, he'll be better this week." Quick note, by the way, with what Saban means by spot him, get him into some spots. Get him into some higher leverage moments since he's been a key part of the offense, at least in terms of the receivers, and not overwork him. It's kind of a bit of a tell, but he wasn't going to be out there for very many run plays, Here are the snap counts at wide receiver against Mississippi State, which does indicate some trend changes relative to the rest of the season. Isaiah Bond remains a key cog on offense. Malik Benson, Jalen Hill, the two new-ish young guys, getting a bunch of reps. Corey Brooks as well. Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Shaz Preston actually played his most snaps for. He's got 7 for the year. That is the main difference there is more snaps for Benson and more snaps for Jalen Hill. Last couple weeks, Hale's been getting more involved. Isaiah Bond remains involved. Jermaine Burton is involved. Corey Brooks kind of sliding down the snap count chart a little bit. Kendrick Law gets involved, but kind of more of a special teamer. Kobe Prentice kind of falling out of favor a little bit, and Shaz Preston tends to play in garbage time. But in the end, we're kind of in the exact same spot we've been in for Alabama when it comes to the wide receiver room. There's several guys who are going to play. Jalen Hale, Burton, Benson, Bond, Law, maybe Brooks to a certain extent. Prentice a little bit less so. There's 7 guys who are approaching 60 snaps already, and we're not quite to week 6. That's a non-insignificant amount of rotation, and I don't think we know the answer to this question yet. Who exactly is the wide receiver 1 for the Crimson Tide? Now, it's a different style offense. I get that. But you need a 3rd and 12 pickup. Who are you throwing it to? A lot of options you can have. So go sound off for me in the comment section right now. Now, Burton's numbers have not been the greatest. No one on the Bama offense's numbers, receiving-wise, have been the greatest. I think it's indicative of an offense that's going to run the football and take some shots deep downfield when they get chances to, play action, etc. Burton's got 8 catches this year. He's averaging almost 24 yards per catch, 2 scores. He's actually the leader among yards this year. The other top 4 notable players, again, Brooks has played a bunch of snaps, but he doesn't have very many catches. Isaiah Bond's got 12 for 179 on the score. Kobe Prentice has 8 for 88. Jalen Hale only 3 catches, but 68 yards and a score. Malik Benson, 6 for 65. It's been a wide receiver by committee and an offense that does not sustain big wide receiver production for the Crimson Tide. Remember, folks, if you have not already done so, please subscribe to us here on the Alabama Football Report. Later this week, we will have a preview for you of the pivotal A&M against Alabama matchup. And oh, by the way, we will also have a post-game reaction for you guys, courtesy of producer Chris. Hopefully it's a positive, winning post-game reaction. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out.